Most people start off by saying, "I've read your book, it's so interesting." You know, that gives me the glow of thinking that was worth all that pain to write it. Other people have jibbed at the anglicisation of the characters, the fact that they have these English names. I just thought, well, that's the expectations of readers who think that Burma is all full of rural people with proper Burmese names. What can you do about that? Yeah. I had my character in the book reacting against what went with patronage, the assumption that you would be at the beck and call of the person who was providing for you, the sheer independence of the artist in that character that just couldn't submit to it. I felt that I'd embarked on something I didn't know how to do. No matter having a degree in English, this doesn't help at all. All it does is to increase the critical voices inside your head which say, that's not very good, is it? I started writing key scenes in the rest of the book. Then having scenes that led up to it, I can't tell you how many drafts I've put myself through, but certainly by the time I had got to the end of the first draft, the first few chapters were completely out of key and had to be rewritten. I attended various writing groups, got varying responses from people, usually very helpful, but you always had to weigh it up. I was scribbling in the margin, and then when you get home you think, she says this is unnecessary. I know it's not. It's got to be there. I'm going to leave it in. So at the beginning of 2016, when I sort of finally thought that's as good as I can get it personally, I then decided to spend a little bit of money putting it through a professional editorial company. The main reason I did it was because I thought, I don't know how people will read it, so I will give it to somebody there's no connection with me, no real axe to grind, and let's see what they say. And true enough, they did pick out things that were inconsequential or distracting, things that I later omitted. That was a useful process for me. He sat down and she set herself to listen. Frowning slightly, he spread his fingers over the keys, paused, biting his lip, then leaned forward and let his hands fall onto a soft chord, meanwhile pressing both feet on the pedals. Then he took his foot off the pedals and picked out a tune she had never heard before, and when he had listened enough, he began to play with the melody, repeating and diverting it, raising his hands to free his fingers for runs or trills, and dropping them for heavy chords that made the pencils on the music rack rattle. The music seemed to flow straight through his shoulders and arms to the fingers touching the keyboard, and she wondered at the heart and imagination that generated it. What he played that night was his own and nobody else's. In it, she could hear childhood songs, music that must have been popular at weddings and dances, and also rage, a rage whose source she could not fathom. Eva listened intently. This was a kind of music that she, brought up by her father in the strict European classical tradition, could not play. Her ear was attuned to every nuance of European style. She had heard many great performers and considered their different musical approaches, but she could only play music written by others. Interpretation was her language, her voice. She was both envious and repelled. How tasteless was one thought, but how wonderful was another.